Have you ever sat down for a massive test, looked at that very first question, and just completely blanked? And it's not because you didn't do the reading, but maybe, you just didn't know how your specific brain studies best? Well, you are in exactly the right place. Welcome to this explainer. Today, we are taking topic 7, introspection in thinking about thinking, and turning it into your absolute fail-proof study guide. I am incredibly excited to walk you through this material step by step in plain English. The goal here is simple, to help you absolutely ace this concept on your final exam. Let's get started.
Okay, so here is a quick look at your exam prep blueprint. First, we'll nail down exactly what thinking about thinking actually means. Then, we are going to meet 3 VIP theorists you absolutely need to know for the test: Isaac Watts, William James, and John Dewey. And finally, we'll wrap up by looking at exactly how to use this stuff in a real classroom, which is going to be perfect for the short essay portion of your exam. All right, section 1, thinking about your thinking. Before we meet our historical VIPs, we literally have to lock down our foundational terms. You're definitely going to see these on those tricky multiple-choice questions. Let's take the word metacognition. I know, it sounds like some heavy academic jargon, but according to researcher Slavin in 2018, it simply means thinking about thinking. It's just your awareness of how your own brain learns. Imagine you're studying for this exam right now, and you suddenly realize, hey, reading this textbook over and over isn't working for me. I need to draw a diagram. That realization right there, that is metacognition in action. You are aware of and taking control of your own learning process. Next up is introspection. Tuckman and Minetti describe this as examining your own thoughts. Honestly, the best way to picture introspection is as an internal mirror. It's looking inwardly to evaluate your own strategies when you're trying to solve a problem. Another researcher, Long, points out that this is absolutely essential for your cognitive development. Because think about it, you can't fix a learning roadblock if you don't look in that mirror to see what's actually causing it.
So, the main idea is metacognition is thinking about thinking, and introspection is looking in the mirror at your own thoughts. Write that down, highlight it, and keep it safe for your exam.
Moving on to section 2, Isaac Watts and intentional habits. Let's see how all this builds. Meet the first of our 3 VIP historical theorists, Isaac Watts. You can think of his theories as the very first puzzle piece to understanding educational psychology. He's famous for his work, The Improvement of the Mind. Now, Watts was a huge believer in intentional thinking habits. He didn't think people were just born smart and, well, that was it. He believed you actually had to use structured mental discipline to cultivate clarity and good judgment. Now, to really help you out on your multiple-choice questions, let's look at a quick timeline so you don't mix these guys up. Watts is our oldest theorist here, from the 18th century, focusing on those intentional habits. Then we'll move to William James in the 19th century, and finally John Dewey in the 20th. Try to keep this chronological order straight in your head. So, what exactly did Watts contribute? Let's break it down in super simple terms. First up, deliberate reflection. This just means scheduling actual time to think. Not just doing your homework, but stopping to think about the homework. Second is avoiding prejudices, which means actively challenging our own biases. And third is systematic knowledge building. He believed we should categorize our notes and review the evidence before just jumping to a conclusion. For Watts, it was all about organized, deliberate brain power. So the main idea is Isaac Watts believed in building intelligence through scheduled, deliberate reflection and challenging our biases. If you see the words deliberate reflection or intentional habits on the test, you pick Isaac Watts for sure.
All right, section 3, William James and memory connections.
We're jumping forward in time to the 19th century to meet our second VIP, William James. He shifted the focus to how our brains physically link ideas together. He wrote this massive, super famous book called Principles of Psychology, and his big aha moment was realizing that memory isn't just some dusty filing cabinet of random facts. It's highly dynamic. For James, memory is all about connections and associations. Let's filter out the textbook jargon for a second. James talked a lot about associative learning. In everyday English, this just means your brain learns best by connecting a new idea to an old idea, based on how similar they are. He also actually coined the phrase stream of consciousness. Imagine your thoughts as a literal river continuously flowing through your head. Introspection is when you pause to look at the water in that river. Finally, he stressed habit formation, meaning the more you repeat these mental connections, the stronger your memory gets. You can see this difference so clearly in a real classroom. Think about rote memorization. Just staring at a stack of flashcards until your eyes hurt.
It's honestly not very effective. But contrast that with James's associative learning. This is when you use mnemonics, or maybe draw a mind map that visually connects a brand new vocabulary word to something you already know. Tuckman and Minetti back this up completely. Meaningful learning happens when you actively stitch new info into your prior knowledge. So the main idea is, William James showed us that memory is associative, and we learn best by actively connecting new ideas to old ones. Remember, James equals memory connections. Section 4. John Dewey and his 5-step reflection. We are in the 20th century now with our final historical theorist, John Dewey. He is incredibly famous for taking all this abstract thinking and turning reflection into a concrete step-by-step process in his book, fittingly called How We Think. Dewey believed that education isn't just about passively absorbing facts from a teacher. It is an active process of constructive thinking. To Dewey, reflection isn't just a nice habit to have. It is the absolute foundation of all intelligent behavior. If you aren't reflecting, well, you aren't truly learning. So, the crucial takeaway here is Dewey's 5-step model. Let's use an everyday classroom example to really make this stick. Step 1, a felt difficulty. Imagine a student, let's call him Leo, freezing up right in the middle of a long division problem. That sudden sinking feeling of, uh-oh, I'm stuck, is the felt difficulty. Step 2, location and definition. Leo realizes, oh, I forgot what to do right after I subtract. He has clarified the problem. Step 3, suggestion of a solution. Leo thinks, maybe I need to bring down the next number. Step 4, reasoning. He mentally explores it. Well, if I bring down the 4, the number becomes 14, and yeah, I can divide that. Step 5, testing the hypothesis. Leo actually writes it down and solves the problem. Boom. That is Dewey's 5 steps in action. So the main idea is, John Dewey gave us a practical 5-step model to solve problems constructively, starting with a felt difficulty. You definitely want to memorize that sequence. It is prime material for your multiple choice questions. Which brings us to our final section, Section 5, using this in class. Okay, pay super close attention here, because this is exactly the material you need to draw on for the short essay portion of your exam. So how do we actually use all this theory? Well, introspection aligns perfectly with what we call constructivist learning. That's really just a fancy way of saying that students learn best when they actively build their own knowledge through real-life context and experience, rather than just being lectured at all day. If you get an essay question asking how to apply introspection in the classroom, write these down. First, project-based learning, or PBL. This creates real-world problems that automatically trigger Dewey's felt difficulty step. Second, exit tickets and reflection logs. Having students write down just one thing they struggled with at the end of class enforces Isaac Watts's idea of deliberate reflection. Third, teacher modeling. Stand at the front of the room and literally say out loud, why did I solve the math problem this way? Is there a better method? When you model that internal mirror for your students, they'll start doing it too. So the main idea is, we can apply introspection in the classroom right now, using exit tickets, learning journals, and project-based learning. Write those specific tools down in your essay, and you will absolutely rack up the points. All right, we've covered the foundational definitions, the history, and the practical tools. You now have the ultimate blueprint. So, I'm going to leave you with this. How will you use introspection to become a better teacher and a better learner today? Take a moment, look in that internal mirror, and trust that you have all the tools you need to succeed. Best of luck on your final exam. You are going to do great.